Hello, myself Sunil Ramakrishnan. Basically, this is the 8th number part of the PHP. So one of the person told that, yeah, we actually never thought that, yeah, up to computer is basically connected up to this level basically. So one of the person told that you can ask the Microsoft designer basically, who are basically the Microsoft doctors basically. They exactly know basically what are the stuff basically, what are the human needs basically going to create, what are the things basically going to get. Currently basically we are discussing PHP, so it's PHP basically. So one of the person told that, yeah, the person who basically who created a symphony, the person who created the cake, the person who created the Laravel basically, they can understand this video basically. Actually the entire creator group basically of the framework basically of the symphony cake, they basically must watch this video basically. Why? Because what they are creating basically, they should know exactly what they are creating basically. And they have created very dangerous stuff basically. So one of the person basically told that, is basically there any PHP doctors available basically? Mostly basically might not be. Why? Because PHP is one DLL basically, which might be created by some Java group or basically by C++ group or basically the Microsoft group basically. So they might have the doctor of PHP basically. But the PHP group basically must supposed to know this everything basically, which basically just now basically I am telling it basically. So that's basically if they want to watch the video, they will watch the video basically. They don't watch, then they don't watch basically. अपना क्या जाता है? Our basically stuff is to give the awareness basically of the. So one of the person told that PHP is basically creating the new version basically. So what is new version basically? That basically we have already discussed physical areas. Now basically comes to the command lines basically. Echo line, echo is there, echo and whatever things basically you type basically, that basically prints into the HTML browser basically. Any new thing basically got added into the echo as if that basically something new thing added into the echo. So that is connecting with the physical areas basically. So the things basically which has added in new in echo basically command basically, that basically is the new version basically of the echo command basically, which is physically first area created basically. So physical area was created first and then basically the command came into play. So whatever command basically, whatever database linking, whatever record set linking, whatever data basically you are retrieving, whatever connection you are adding, whatever connection pools basically you are adding, Oracle connection, SQL connection, PMI SQL connection, no SQL connection, whatever basically thing basically you are doing in PHP, which is written by the PHP creator and the designers basically who actually created the PHP and designer. Here basically I am not going to the frameworks basically, which framework basically comes later on basically. First the PHP creation basically happens. So one of the person told that like this basically the commands get created. So whatever command basically lines are getting created now basically, that totally depends upon the, assume that basically one command line basically, assume that basically one command line, there is one line of command basically which was introduced in PHP, new, assume that basically Sunil PHP something basically, and in bracket basically something basically you pass, and according to that basically the return basically comes into the picture. So this thing basically one person told that basically this is the 100 cities basically where Sunil area basically, where basically on the name of Sunil basically some group basically created this company. Assume that basically PHP in PHP designer basically one Sunil NAIR basically one person basically is there. My name is also Sunil basically. So that person basically name is also Sunil basically. So that person told that on the name of his area basically the command line was created. So that can be in short format also basically. The name can be in the short format also. So that basically the command basically which gets created. In Java also basically lots of commands are there. Import is there, import libraries are there basically there. So these all are the command lines basically. And these command lines basically have physical location basically. So one of the person told that yeah, basically we never basically got this type of information in any of the video. Even basically the Microsoft basically has never basically told this type of thing. Bill Gates basically also basically, but Microsoft basically knows everything. Why? Because Microsoft has never entered into the physical creation basically. But he have to enter basically one day basically. Otherwise basically government will say that basically Microsoft is our property. It might possible basically. So that's why basically the Bill Gates basically have to enter into the construction industry also basically. 100% he have to enter basically. PHP group has to enter. The Java group basically have to enter. Java group basically might have basically creation basically, because their commands basically are telling like that only basically. And the PHP also basically, because mostly PHP might be created by Java group or C++ group basically, might be possible, because PHP commands are also basically telling like that only basically, that they have already entered into the construction industry basically. So here basically the stuff is what new version basically. So you can just imagine basically the new version he's connecting up. One of the person told them, यार PHP ने तो new version ला दिया, धमाल करो, this करो, दो करो. But see the hard work basically they have done basically. But they have not given me the job. That is different thing basically. When basically I visited a few cities basically, that time PHP basically ignored SUNIL or NAIR basically. So one of the person told that in India basically set of businessmen basically are there who are basically into the investment of PHP basically. They are basically into the investment basically. So one of the person told that everything basically is connected. That is basically called as a union basically. That is basically given as a name as a, somebody has created the Statue of Unity also basically. So you can just imagine the creation also basically. Statue of Unity means one basically. So it's an entire one group basically. So one of the person told them this might be the reason basically why Sunil R Nair basically is not getting job. Some group basically got jealous basically. यार सुनील को ये सब कैसे पता है? How Sunil R Nair know without any basically education basically? How basically he has not entered into Harvard basically? He has not entered into Oxford basically? Then also basically how one normal person basically knows this everything basically? So he basically is not allowing basically me to get the job. Even basically the Microsoft also basically might have got jealous basically, because he is telling that basically America is number one and non-American group basically can't have this type of knowledge basically. So one of the person told that means you are Sunil basically, why don't you convert to the Pakistani basically, because Pakistan group basically fights for their people basically, but Indian government basically never fights for their people basically. They just basically भाई इतना मिला अपने को बस, दैट्स ऑल बेसिकली, इतना मिला अपने को, इतना मिलने वाला, दैट्स ऑल बेसिकली. दे ओनली नो दिस ओनली बेसिकली. That is Indian businessmen. That is the Reliance Group, Adani Group. આપણાને આટલું મળ્યું લા, બહુ થઈ ગયું આપણે તો. માં ફડાવા ગયું પબ્લિક બેસિકલી. So that is basically the words basically. માં ફડાવા ગયું means ભાડ में गया basically everything basically. Rest of public basically, we don't have to care of the public basically. But if this type of knowledge basically American government basically will see, they will say that basically. That's why basically we are not allowing the Indian group basically, because your Indian government basically is not taking care of your people basically. Then why we should take care? They might be correct basically. They are basically correct basically. So here basically we are not going into the politics side basically, because it's very dangerous basically. Otherwise basically otherwise basically this will convert into the third world war also basically. So one of the person told that new version basically, which is connecting up to the nuclear power plant, power companies, everything basically it's connects. Then basically the new version of the PHP gets introduced into the market basically. So how dangerous stuff is. So in next video basically we are going to see little bit more about this topic.